Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Freilich and Shushan Purim Cotton.
Freilich and Shushan Purim Cotton.
We are learning Mishnah Yis Erevin, Parak Vav, Chapter 6, Mishnah Ches, Mishnah 8. Okay, before we start, let me show you the picture already. Yeah. The point of this picture is that you have, no, wrong picture. Like that, wrong picture. This picture, you have two chatzeros. One further out, which is called the inner one, actually, and then the one closer to the street.
Okay.
You see that?
Okay.
It's one chatzer, it leads into another chatzer, which leads into the Rishus Harabim, to the public domain. So the further one in is called the inner one in the Mishnah, and the one further closer to Rishus Harabim is called the outer one. Now, these are two separate chatzeros. You see in the picture, they have walls around it, and there's an opening as a pesach, as a doorway to go through. And as two separate chatzeros, theoretically, they could tell, maybe one could argue that, one could say, don't come into my courtyard. However, the people closer to the public domain cannot tell the people further out, you cannot come through, because that's the only way for them to get out. So the ones on the inner, the ones further back, have what's called Drisas Harego. They have the right of passage, the right of walking through. And that makes a very big difference in the halachas of Erev Chatzeres. Okay, so actually Mishnah Ches, Mishnah Tes, Mishnah 9. Okay, Shtei Chatzerei Zu Lefnei Zu, two courtyards, one within the other. Okay, you've got them one located inside the other. Ereva Hapnimis, the inner one, which again means the one further back, made an Erev. But the other one did not make an Erev. Okay, so the halacha is Hapnimis Muteres, the inner one, again, which means the one further back, is permissible. The members of that courtyard could carry there. The outer one is forbidden. This is pretty basic, right? The inner one made an Erev, the outer one didn't make an Erev. So therefore, understandably, the inner one they can carry there, and the other one they can't. Let's say, let's say the outer one made an Erev Chatzeres, but the inner one didn't. Shteyen Asurais. They are both forbidden. Even the outer one that made an Erev Chatzeres for themselves, the members of that Chatzah will not be able to carry there. Why is that? That's because the members of the inner one, since they have the right of passage through the outer one, they are considered like residents of that outer courtyard. And if they didn't participate in that Erev, it's like I have people who are part of the Chatzar who didn't participate in the Erev. The Erev is no good. So the fact that even though the ones on the inner ones, they don't live there, but since they have the right of passage, and they can't be stopped from going through, they have the right of passage. Therefore, they are considered like the residents of the outer one. They too need to participate in that Erev Chatzeres if the Erev Chatzeres of the outer one is to work. Now, Ereva Zoyla Atzma v'Zoyla Atzma. Each one made its own Erev. The inner one made its own Erev. The outer one made its own Erev. They could have participated together if they wanted to, but they didn't. Zu Materis B'fnei Atzma v'Zu Materis B'fnei Atzma. Each one is permissible by itself. The members of the inner courtyard, they can carry in the inner courtyard. The ones in the outer courtyard can carry in the outer courtyard. Now, the ones from the inner courtyard, can they carry in the outer courtyard?
I don't know.
No,
they can't.
They can't. It says Zumatas B'fnei Atzma. This is permissible by itself, and this one is permissible by itself. The ones who are going to be the ones from the inner one cannot use the outer one. They can walk through it, but they can't carry there. They can't carry there. Because they didn't participate in that Erev. Nonetheless, the fact that these people who cannot use the outer Erev are walking through the outer Erev, doesn't make a difference. Because the only time we say that the inner ones will mess up the outer one, as in the case before, when the inner ones didn't make the Erev Chatzeris, but the outer ones did, and we say the inner ones mess up the outer one because they have the Rishas Haregel, or the rite of passage, that is only going to be true when those who have the rite of passage in their own Chatzer didn't make an Erev and can't carry there. That's when we say, basically, if you can't carry in your own, now when you walk through the other one, you're going to mess it up. Then your rite of passage, which makes you be considered a resident there too, is going to mess it up. But if in your own courtyard you could carry, because you made Erev Chatzeris there, so you can go, like we say, from the house to the courtyard to the house within the courtyard. So then you don't mess it up. Then the fact that you can't carry in this outer one and you're walking through doesn't make a difference. Even if we consider you a member of this outer courtyard because of the fact that you walk through, but if you have Erev Chatzeris in the inner courtyard, so in your courtyard you could carry, then you don't affect the outer courtyard. You don't need to be part of the Erev of the outer courtyard. That's the Tana Kama. Rabbi Akiva says no. Even in this case, the outer one becomes forbidden. Shadri says Haregel Sarta, because the rite of passage forbids it. According to Rabbi Akiva, it's not enough. The fact that in your own courtyard you can carry. If you cannot carry in this courtyard and you have Drisas Haregel, you have rite of passage. So you are a member of this courtyard, and if you don't participate in the Erev Chatzeris of this courtyard, you'll be messing up that courtyard. So the Tana Kama said, even though the inner one didn't participate in the Erev of the outer one, but the fact that they have their own Erev and they can carry there, therefore they won't affect the outer one. According to Rabbi Akiva, that doesn't make a difference. He's more strict. He says that even if you could carry in the inner one in your own, if at the end of the day you cannot carry in the outer one, you didn't participate in that Erev, then your Dris Haregel, rite of passage, messes it up. The Chachamim say, Ein Derisas Haregel Eisarta. Rite of passage does not forbid it. According to the Chachamim argue from the beginning of the whole point. The whole idea of the rite of passage can actually forbid the other courtyard. The Chachamim say that doesn't exist. Just because you have rite of passage to go through, you're not actually living in that chutzner, you're not part of that chutzner, and you don't affect that chutzner. And therefore, in the case we had before, of where the people from the inner chutzner didn't make an Erev Chatzeris, and the people from the outer chutzner did make the Erev Chatzeris, we're both going to come here, Rabbi Akiva agree that the people of rite of passage are going to mess up the Erev for those who live in the outer courtyard. The Chachamim say, absolutely not. Just because you have the rite of passage doesn't make you a resident there, and therefore you don't have to be part of the Erev Chatzeris. And an Erev Chatzeris where only the outer chutzner people made Erev Chatzeris will be good. The halacha is like the Tana Kama. Not like the Chachamim, but the Tana Kama. The first opinion, which says that Drisas Haregel, rite of passage, does forbid, and that it will only forbid when the person who is passing through couldn't carry in his own chutzner. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.